This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not provided as financial, legal, or any other advice. The information is not investment advice or an offer to buy or sell any securities or make any investment. The views expressed by guest speakers are their own, and any reference to third-party products, services, or information does not constitute an endorsement thereof by SNN or its affiliates. SNN expressly disclaims all liability for any individual's use of the information presented in this podcast. My guests on the show today are Craig Mull, CEO, and Bryan Jacobs, president of Cipher Pharmaceuticals. It's a publicly traded company. The symbols are CPH on the TSX and CPHRF on the OTCQX. Cipher Pharmaceuticals is a specialty pharmaceutical company with a robust and diversified portfolio of commercial and early to late stage products, mainly in dermatology. Cipher acquires products that fulfill unmet medical needs, manages the required clinical development and regulatory approval process, and currently markets those products in Canada, the US, and South America. On July 29, 2024, Cipher announced that it acquired the global product rights for Natroba, as well as the commercial sales team in the US for $89.5 million from ParaPRO. Following this acquisition, the largest in the company's history, I invited on the management team to learn more about the history of Cipher and how they've narrowed their focus on providing dermatology products for the under 18 consumer, what the competitive landscape looks like, the acquisition of Natroba and what this means moving forward, phase 3 clinical trial for nail fungus treatment with Moberg Pharma, and their 3 to 5 year vision for the company. And with that, please enjoy my conversation with Craig Mull and Bryan Jacobs of Cipher Pharmaceuticals. Craig, Bryan, thank you guys for joining me today. How are you doing?
Thanks for having us. Appreciate your time.
Really excited to be here.
Absolutely. It's great to have you both. I mean, look, I've been following Cipher for a while, but I think the main instigator today, and I'm sure we'll cover this at length, was the company's most recent news about the acquisition of the growth dermatology products from ParaPRO. We'll get into all of that in a little bit because that is, I mean, arguably, I don't think it's out of pocket to say the biggest acquisition in the company's history. So we're going to build to get there. So the first thing I'd like to ask you guys, and this is something I ask everybody on here, and Craig, I'm going to come to you on this one. Can you give us that one line that best describes the company?
Sure. And again, thanks for having us. I guess what describes Cipher the best is that we are a small but growing, nimble company that is focused on dermatology. And unlike other specialty pharma companies, we're also very focused on profit. We're not developing products that require a great deal of capital. We're looking for products that are profitable and can add to our healthy bottom line.
Very good. I think that's a perfect way to get things started here. So I want to take a look back at the company's history because I've interviewed a number of, believe it or not, Canadian specialty pharmaceutical companies on our program before. I'm sure you know the names of all of them, but one thing that stood out to me just in your description right there and doing the research is your focus on dermatology. So I want to take a look back at the company's history. When was the company founded, and what would you say was the original thesis for its founding? So Bryan, you want to tackle that, and then Craig, I'll come to you.
Bob, if you don't mind, and I don't mean to show my age, but I was involved in all that. So
let's go, Craig.
Why don't I take the lead?
Yeah. Want to keep it even. We're keeping it even,
So Cipher was started in 2004, and it was started within a public company called CML Healthcare. CML Healthcare was mainly involved in diagnostic lab services and imaging services. And it happened to be our family business that my dad started in 1970. And we had grown it through acquisitions and just gaining market share to the point where we had a third of the lab testing market in Canada and something in that range on imaging services. And we felt that it was going to be difficult for us to gain share going forward at the rate that we had previously experienced. And so we were looking for other areas of growth. And through some introductions, we were introduced to a group out of Puerto Rico called Gallopharm. Galefar's main job is to develop products, and they had a number of products that they were developing, and so we formed Cipher within the publicly traded imaging and lab services company. And at some point in time, there was a new vehicle here in Canada called Income Trust, and Income Trust allowed the company to basically dividend out their cash flow tax free. So, and CML was a big cash producer, and yet Cipher was a fledgling little company costing money. So what we did is we spun out Cipher as its own public entity in 2004. I was the first CEO of the business, and I hired, the then CEO of the business, and really formed the business within the diagnostic lab company, and then spun it out on the market. After that, I went on to run another one of our family businesses, and then followed the company, obviously, as it continued to be a significant shareholder. And back in early 2020, I was asked to take a look at what the business was doing. I didn't like what I saw, joined the board, and then became chairman of the board. And given that I didn't like what I saw, I replaced management as well and installed myself as the CEO. And at that point in time, it was clear to me that to survive, Cipher had to cut overhead significantly, start focusing on, a narrower indication being dermatology, pay down the debt, bank as much cash as we can, and look for our next leg of growth. I'm happy to say that Bryan, joined me about a year and a half ago, Bryan. Or is
2
it
years now. 2 years. Time flies.
So, which, it turned out to be a really good thing for the business and me. And so we focused on, a great deal of our time was spent looking for opportunities. We looked at dozens of companies to acquire, or products to acquire. We had focused on Canada, and we couldn't find anything of any real interest. Most of the specialty pharma companies in Canada are, either have too much debt, or their product portfolio doesn't lend for any efficiency on their commercial structure. And so we weren't successful in looking for anything, finding anything in Canada. At the same time, we were looking in the US, and after turning over a lot of rocks, we found what we think is a very good fit with Cipher in ParaPRO, and where the ParaPRO product line, Natroba specifically, and their commercial infrastructure.
Right.
And at this point, maybe Bryan, we've promoted Bryan to the head of the president of the US for Cipher, and he's taken the lead on the transition of this acquisition. Maybe Bryan, you have something more to add.
For sure. Before we get to that, I'm going to set you up for that real quick. I want to go back on the timeline to that early 2020, Craig, when you then joined the board, became chairman, replaced management, and you discussed how you, at that point, wanted to narrow the focus on dermatology. Why dermatology at that time, and said, this is the direction we want to go?
Well, mainly because our lead product is an acne product, and some of the other products were derm as well, but like the Cipher also has some hospital products which we're consuming a lot of money in commercializing. So we've changed that, where we found an outside partner to sell those products off to the side. But dermatology is an area that we think that we've already got a pretty good anchor into with the acne product, and it was more opportunistic than anything, that focus.
Got it. Okay. All right. So then now time to set up Bryan with this one, but I'm sure knew the whole history. But as we said, main reason I wanted to have you guys on today was the acquisition of ParaPRO. Craig, you set us up perfectly for why this acquisition made a lot of sense. So Bryan, you take it from there. Tell us a little bit more about, why ParaPRO, why now was the time to make this acquisition, and how it's going to continue to solve and achieve some of the objectives that you're looking to achieve with Cipher.
Yeah, so if I kind of pick up where Craig said, we had looked at a lot. We looked at a lot of companies. We looked at a lot of products, and we came across this one. This is what the way that we kind of look at the Natroba business. It was run very much like the way that Cipher has been run in the recent years with Craig's leadership, which is what we call a bit of a smaller outfit, tightly run. Made sure it was managing, its top line and bottom line, and was cash generating. So it really kind of ticked all those boxes, and it was owner managed before, and that individual was going to be focusing, the former owner of ParaPRO, focusing on call it ParaPRO's future, which is going to be going back into R&D, which is an area that they're passionate about. And then they were selling what we call the Natroba business. So that's really what we acquired, the Natroba commercial sales force and the assets. So the quick answer I give and why we liked it is, it almost kind of perfectly aligned with the way that Cipher was being run. And conversely, a lot of pharmaceutical companies aren't run that way. They're run with big expectation of promise and future growth, and infrastructure that doesn't support the top. The top line doesn't support we call it the below the line infrastructure, and that wasn't a business that we would want to walk into.
Very good. So, I mean, I'm not sure if you're allowed to talk about this, so feel free to tell me, go pound sand, Bob. But I mean, what kind of revenues was ParaPRO doing? Obviously prior to the acquisition, but I'm sure people would love to understand what that means now for Cipher on the revenue side.
Yeah, so more will come on that. Obviously, we have business acquisition reporting that will come out and give investors a lot more information. But what we have put out is, kind of high level guidance, which is our revenue is more than doubled the Cipher's. So Cipher was, call it 23 million US. So the revenues have more than doubled. And what was really surprising with it is, kind of the run rate of the Natroba business was almost an identical EBITDA level that Cipher was generating. So that's where you would have heard Craig say our earnings, and a lot of our press releases, our earnings have kind of doubled from that EBITDA metric.
Absolutely. So now with adding Natroba as part of Cipher's full product suite, let's say, can you tell us a little bit more about the various products within the Cipher portfolio, target market, who's looking to treat, all that stuff for folks to have a better understanding of, what aspect of dermatology? You mentioned the acne product, is there, do you have, love to hear more there. So Craig, Bryan, feel free, whoever wants.
Sure. Maybe I'll take the lead, Bryan, here. So as I mentioned, the acne product is our main product, both in Canada and the US. In the US, it's gone through a genericization, and we have very stable sales in the US. In Canada, a different story. Our main competitor is Accutane. Accutane has held the share remarkably well, given the fact that it's an inferior product.
And just the worst ever. Too many friends that used Accutane. Sorry,
Right.
A whole nother tangent there, but anyways.
The important difference between our product, which we call Epurus in Canada, and Accutane is you don't have to eat food to take it. And given the age category we're talking about here, that is a very good thing. So, people don't have to sit down and eat a 1,200 calorie meal in the morning before they take the drug. So we're finding it just out of sheer greater awareness of our product that we're gaining share against Accutane. And, Accutane still has, upwards of 40% of the market. And, we're laser focused on going after that category. We also have some other complementary derm products that are sold in Canada. Our pipeline, we also have a very interesting product coming down the pipe for nail fungus. We have the Canadian rights to a product called MOB-015 that was developed out of Sweden by Moberg. The Canadian market for nail fungus, the current size of it is 90 million. And there is one product that has 90% of that market, and it's called Jubilee, sold by Bausch in Canada. And it's quite clear from our discussions with dermatologists is that they use it, and it's probably the one that they use almost exclusively, but it does not work. And our product, if we have a phase 3 study going on in the US right now, Moberg's directing it, handling it. And we've got a readout of the data in January of this coming year. We're hoping that, based on some changes in the dosing regimen of the product, that it ends up with a complete cure rate. The results end up with a complete cure rate greater than Jubilee. And if that happens, we think that we can take the majority, if not all, of that market, and it's very exciting to us. And that it really would fall into that category of an unmet need.
Oh, so, for sure. That is, yeah, nope. Is it looking to be a topical, or would it be a pill form?
It's a topical.
Topical. Okay. Yeah.
But the topical that's got, and I don't want to go too far in the weeds on this, but even currently the mycological cure rate, which is the ability to cure the fungus itself, which is the main thing, is almost as high as the oral terbinafine, which is almost unheard of that you could get those type of results. The product has been launched in the Scandinavian countries, and specifically with Sweden. They launched it, and it immediately became the #1 nail fungus product. And it actually, and importantly, grew the market by 52%. So, and this happens, where, an indication could actually, the demand for the product could actually expand the market because it works. A lot of people who use Jubilee don't see it working and, dump it. Right. So that would affect the size of the market as well. So, we think that's really exciting, and, it's not too far away. Absolutely. In the US, we have 3 products. The acne product, which is called Absorica in the US, which again has been genericized, but we're receiving very stable royalties from our commercial partner, that being Sun. Then we have 2 other products, a Conzip, which is basically a tramadol product that's sold again through another commercial partner. And then lastly, fenofibrate, which is a lipid lowering product that generates some good cash for us. Interesting. Now that we have our commercial platform in the US, we're going to be examining possibly changing those relationships. And I think Bryan will have more to say about that when he talks more about the acquisition.
Right. Yeah. Take it away. If you want to add anything there.
Yeah. So, well, I think what's most important to see is, we're a North American dermatology based company. Craig's talked about our opportunity. We currently have a good growing derm product in Epuris, and we're going to have Moberg in Canada very shortly. And now we have a US business. And the one thing that I would say about the Natroba business and the well-managed nature of it is that there's large opportunity for it to grow. Natroba is growing at a low double-digit rate, which is a conservative rate. We think we can grow it beyond that, as well as it's a one-product company down there. So having the ability to bring back, products that we've licensed out to other partners. Can we bring that back when those licensing arrangements expire? That's going to be something that we're going to look at. It's just a logical move. Why would we license it to someone else when we have our own US presence? We also have the ability to add additional products into that portfolio. So there's almost what I'd say a three-pronged approach to US growth, which is bring back the licensing, grow Natroba, as well as add complementary products to that portfolio.
Absolutely. And real quick, so Natroba also, just to address the products itself, it's treatment of scabies, if I'm seeing correctly. Am I off on that?
No, that's right.
Okay.
But initially, Natroba was launched in 2012, and its original indication is for head lice. And head lice, many of us might have had it when we were younger. There was one product on the market that was most commonly prescribed for it called permethrin.
I thought you were going to say something to shave your head, actually.
That's the
razor. Gillette. No.
What's happened with lice bugs over time is that they've developed resistance, and I shouldn't really say bugs because it's what they call an anti-parasite market, which includes scabies. So it's got to the point where now you'll use permethrin and only kill off, a portion of it, or, not at all, and your problem doesn't go away. And we don't need to describe that. Anyone can go on the internet and read about how permethrin has developed resistance and how you shampoo your hair 4 times over and it still doesn't work. So really all we're doing is, and Natroba doesn't have that resistance profile. It's a different molecule. So it's very easy to grow it when you have a product where the permethrin, in the anti-parasitic market, they have upwards of 75% of the market, and we have less than 25%. So that's who we're competing with in the US. And we, with dedication, focus, and putting resources to it, we believe it's an easy market share to grow. And then you started your question with talking about scabies. It was only recently in 2021 that the product was expanded through an FDA process for the treatment of scabies. Scabies are like a body mite. And the interesting thing about it is the only product on the market that's been designated as having a complete cure rate. So complete cure of scabies, and if you have it, and then where the other opportunity is the treatment cycle is not only do you get one bottle to treat the patient, but they recommend that everybody in the family treats themselves with the product. So, one family member with a problem, in a 4-person household becomes 4 scripts. So the room for this product to grow is absolutely tremendous. And, we think it's just a fantastic business to build upon in the US.
I'm going to ask you.
Just to add to that, Bob,
Sure.
and Bryan went over what we think are the key growth areas. The obvious one is increasing the market share in the US. We've got the main competitor doesn't work, and they have, as Bryan said, 75% of the market. The sales force that we acquired is underutilized right now. We're looking for some complementary products that would, particularly into the same type of touch point, the same referring physician or assistant, that we're looking for those products, and we've made quite an advancement in a couple of opportunities. The third one, and I've referred to this as the cross-pollination of products. We've got commercial partners in the US. Do we really need them? And what products can we bring? Well, obviously the Natroba product we should be launching in Canada too, which we're in the process of getting approvals for it. The other big one, because we own that Natroba product, is that we can sell it anywhere else in the world too. And, that's, obviously again, Bryan said, go through the literature. Well, lots of literature, not only from North America, but, Spain and Italy and Germany, for example. These are all markets that we can find commercial partners for. And those would likely come along with a royalty, which we're very familiar with, and milestone payments. So, lots of growth potential here with that acquisition beyond the great story of the MOB-015 nail fungus product.
Absolutely. But it sounds like the current products currently available that you guys are actively selling. I mean, it seems like the strategy has been, okay, what else can we bring together to put into our sales pipeline that really addresses this kind of like under 18 derm market, right? That seems like that is the total focus there,
Right.
with everything that you're talking about, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Sure. Got it. So what would you say? I mean, look, I've known of Cipher for a while. It seems like everybody was kind of like, all right, they're continuing to grow. They're buttoning down the business, high insider ownership, all the stuff that a lot of, folks that are probably listening and saying, okay, this hits a lot of the fundamentals, but it seemed like it was like kind of that in between time until you announced and made this big acquisition, which, it's not a small acquisition, $90 million acquisition, right? So, I mean, how you kind of addressed this a little bit already, but just giving even fuller picture, how does this change the trajectory and the folks' full picture of the Cipher story prior to the acquisition? Craig, Bryan?
I think that story is still unfolding. We're not intending to stop here.
Good. All right.
So, we've got further aspirations.
Sure.
So, and I may have kind of forgotten the exact question, but we see Cipher now as we have what amounts to the next leg of growth, and I think that based on those growth items that I mentioned, those 4 items, that Cipher could become a much, much bigger company than it is today. And along with that, we'll be seeking a NASDAQ listing in the not too distant future. And we're going to basically migrate the business to being a US based business. The potential is much greater. Canada's small. We've been able to cut our teeth here, and we don't want to turn our eye on the Canadian portfolio because it generates good cash, and we want to use that in the future. So we've got a good base business generating good money. We bought a company that makes money. We're not into looking for products that are in early phase testing and development, and throwing a whole ton of money at it, finding out, rolling the dice to see whether A, it works, and number 2, will it be paid for? So, that's not our business. We're going to continue to be looking for, near term or preferably, revenue generating assets.
So my next question then for you guys, now that made the acquisition, you're starting to get out there, tell the story a bit more, in maybe talking with some of your constituents, other fellow shareholders, large and or small, what would you say investors maybe still get confused when thinking about Cipher? And maybe we can answer some of those frequently asked questions here.
Well, Cipher, doesn't have a huge float of shares, but we've got long-term shareholders, and I think that I thank them for being patient. For years, it was like, "What are you guys going to do next?" type of thing, and we were doing lots of work behind the scenes, but nothing was really being announced. So, I thank them for their patience, but we're in this for the long term, and we're not going to go out there to do something that will, jack our share price up overnight for a few weeks until people work things out. And we're here for the long term. I'm a big shareholder and part of the original group that put the company together. We want to see another successful company built here. So I'm not sure if I answered your question.
You answered it for sure. I mean, Bryan, do you want to add anything to that, or should I move on to the next question?
Next question.
Let's go. All right. So, another question that I ask everybody on here, because, look, it's, obviously there's a lot of excitement, just made the big acquisition, we're pedal to the metal, let's go. But just playing devil's advocate, I ask every management team on here, in your opinion, what would you say are some of the company's downside risks or things that might be keeping you up at night that folks should maybe be aware of? Bryan, Craig,
Well, one would be if Bryan got hit by a car tomorrow.
Well, there's
So
always
that's why I make him
course.
take the bus home every night. That's I'm trying to.
Of course.
I mean I can't guess what they will be. I mean I was losing quite a bit of sleep. Where we weren't finding the right leg of growth. So I'm sleeping a little better now on that. Genericization of products is always a concern. Competitive activities. And in the US, making sure that we've got the correct payer relationships in place. And that can keep me up at night because things change a lot down in different states. Not having a contract renewed in a particular state, those are things that make me a little nervous, but we haven't seen that. Bryan, any other risk items that I'm overlooking we're just not saying?
No. And maybe just to flip the question up on its head is, okay, well, where do most specialty pharma companies get in trouble? They get over-levered. We're not over-levered. We bought a business with half of the cash that we had accumulated from our existing profitable business. And we want to, so we're not, we don't have that handcuff on us that a lot of organizations have. So that's not a risk, and it's a risk to a lot of our competitors right now. The competitive landscape for our product is very strong. There is always going to be competition risk, but we're the only other product on the market, and we're taking share from a leader whose product doesn't really work. That's kind of similar to what was going to happen with Moberg. The Moberg product, you can't have a better competitive landscape. We're going to have a product in our portfolio that we won't have to fight it out and put a lot of time and money and resources into it because it'll be just a better product and physicians are waiting for that additional product. So we won't have to hire armies of reps in order to push it. So some of those, I would say, inherent risks that we're not talking about is we just don't see them there with Cipher.
Very good. So another question that I want to pose to you. Actually, I'm gonna cut to this is kind of the main question I ask everybody as we close out our interview here today. In your opinion, where do you want to see the company in 3 to 5 years? And what would you say, if you had to guess, would be the inflection points that'll get you to where you want to be, that vision, 3 to 5 year vision?
I think number one, taking that market share from permethrin in the US market for the head lice and scabies. That's an automatic low, use an overused term, it's low hanging fruit or whatever. That's where we're going to, significantly increase our revenues and margins. We'd also like to see, the Moberg product come to Canada and come to market in Canada. That's gonna really accelerate our sales. I'd like this business to, significantly increase the revenue into the hundreds of millions. I'd like to see the market cap go well above $1 billion. I'd like to see the NASDAQ listing. I'd like to see, the business migrate to the US market. And, I really am thinking and feeling very positive right now about where we could end up.
And the only thing I'd add there is we're really good at licensing arrangements and royalty streams as well. That's kind of some of the bread and butter that Cipher has. And we have the worldwide rights to Natroba. And the permethrin issue is a problem worldwide. You can't get a good product prescribed that's going to one-shot treat your head lice, and that's a big impact for a family. You do anything to get rid of head lice in your household because you got to go to work and your kid gets sent home from school and all of that. And like Craig said, read the literature in Spain and Germany and what's written on the internet. It's a worldwide problem. So we're going to bring that product through licensing and royalty arrangements, which just falls down to the bottom line.
Very good. Of everything sounds very, exciting. You guys, it sounds like now it's full steam ahead on execution. Still, what blows my mind, I still can't believe Accutane is 40% market share. I'm like thinking back to my middle school days of like all the friends that signed up for it and used it and had terrible reactions and are even experiencing some side effects even to this day. So like that blows my mind. I had no idea that was still a thing. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great place to end it. We covered a lot here today. It's relatively simple story to understand at this point. It's just a matter of execution now. So, with that, where can our audience go and find more information on Cipher Pharmaceuticals?
I'd say come to our website. All of our public filings you can get through there. We have information on the company through the investor portal there, so that's a good resource. Also, they can do work on a recent transaction with ParaPRO and understand that product. They'll be able to find that very, easily or readily available on that in the permethrin areas, and that's where I'd. And also with Moberg, you don't need to take our word for what we're saying about the promise of that product. Moberg is a public company. Go to their website, talk about their launch success and taking over in market share within 3 months. They're the market leader. So why is that not a reasonable proxy? So all of those are external pieces of data that I think the investing community should do their homework on and take a look at.
Very cool. All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. Really do appreciate it. Good luck. Stay safe. And I look forward to our next update.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not provided as financial, legal, or any other advice. The information is not investment advice or an offer to buy or sell any securities or make any investment. The views expressed by guest speakers are their own, and any reference to third-party products, services, or information does not constitute an endorsement thereof by SNN or its affiliates. SNN expressly disclaims all liability for any individual's use of the information presented in this podcast.